Good evening. Welcome to our virtual fellowship here at the Fellowship of Amazing Grace, Dyer Baptist Church on February 2nd. Due to the big snow outside, we're not meeting in person here in the building for Treasure Seekers or SOS, but I'm glad that we could spend a little bit of time together just reflecting on our Jesus and some of the good things that he's done for us. As part of this video, I'm going to go back into the vault and play some of the videos that we recorded almost 2 years ago now during our coronavirus shutdown, and bring those out just warm our hearts and to listen to the messages of these things again. So here we go.
Hosanna, they cry as Jesus rides by waving palms. They praise him and sing. Blessed is he, praise God, we are free. Hosanna to Jesus the King. Hail to the Lord's anointed, David's royal son. Hail to the time appointed, and does rule on earthly God. Hosanna, they cry, waving palms, they praise him and sing. Blessed is he, Hosanna to Jesus the King. Hail to the weak and strong, the King comes to make us one. Hail to the slain and free, our King shall bring the victory. Hosanna, blessed is he. Hosanna, blessed is he. Hosanna, blessed is he. Hosanna, blessed is he. Hosanna, they cry as Jesus rides by waving palms. They praise him and sing. Blessed is he, praise blessed is he. Hosanna to Jesus the King. As Jesus rides by waving palms, they praise him and sing. Blessed is he, blessed is he. Hosanna to Jesus the King. Hosanna to Jesus Christ the King.
Good evening and welcome to our live stream record of the Dyer Baptist Church evening service. Flossie and I certainly missed you. You all know how much we love those good hugs. And so we ask that you would save them for us until this storm is passed over. God bless you. We hope that you'll be encouraged.
I'm going to get to prayer requests here in just a minute, but let me give you just a couple of announcements. First one is I'm sure a lot are wondering about Pastor Lee and whether he and Bethany made it to South Africa or not. They are currently in transit, but they definitely had some trouble getting out of Chicago before the snowstorms hit. There was a clerical error on their COVID paperwork, which caused them to miss their first flight. But praise God, someone was able to reroute them. But they ended up having to go to Germany and spend, I want to say, like 8 hours or so in an airport in Germany. But from there, they're headed to South Africa, and they are due to land maybe about 1 a.m. Thursday, our time. So please be praying for them. I know that's got to be a huge headache to have to go through those kind of hassles in the airport, and we can pray that God allows the rest of their journey to be able to be refreshing to those that they're going to visit. So keep praying for them. That's not a just something that we say, but we can honestly take it to God in prayer. The second announcement I want to make is that Missions Conference is almost here, and it's coming up. It starts on the 16th. That's just 2 weeks from tonight. and our theme, Light to the Ends of the Earth. And we're going to have special missions conference service Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that week. Some activities on Saturday morning and evening, and then all day Sunday too. We have some special missionary guests coming to visit us, and I hope that you've been anticipating it, but also praying for our conference guests as they're coming in. Well, hello, friends! Yay, we get to sing together! Okay, boys and girls, let's stand up and sing together. Ready? Like soldiers, salute! I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir! Hey, do you guys know the Mexican version? Yeah, let's try that. I may never take a trip to Mexico, wear a big sombrero, eat a cheesy taco. I may never ride a donkey oh so slow, but I'm in the Lord's army. Si, senor. I'm in the Lord's army. Si, senor. I'm in the Lord's army. Si, senor. I may never take a trip to Mexico, wear a big sombrero, eat a cheesy taco. I may never ride a burro oh so slow, but I'm in the Lord's army. Si, senor! For prayer requests tonight, I'm going to mention just 3. I know that upstairs in the service they usually have a list, but maybe if you could just take something to jot down these 3 prayer requests, and then maybe just take some time praying about these 3 things before you go to bed. Not to mention Pastor Lee. I guess that would be 4, okay? But I'm just going to help use this wall here to help us remember. But the first one to pray for is the Crockett's. Our partners in ministry, and the Crockett's had temporarily relocated to the island of Mauritius on the other side of Madagascar because Mrs. Crockett is at 40 weeks and they wanted to give birth there in order to get the proper paperwork. So they are there, and then a cyclone showed up, kind of like a hurricane, and it's pounding their island right now. So we need to pray for their safety. Also pray that she doesn't go into labor during the cyclone, okay? Because likely electricity and water is going to get knocked out. So we need to pray for them. This is in a particularly rough spot. Second of all, let's be in prayer for the Sinclair family. Ben Sinclair's father, Jerry, did pass away last week. His funeral was held up in Hammond just on Monday, and Ben is, far away in Cameroon. But pray for him and his family as they grieve during this time. And third, let's remember Anne Marie in prayer. This is the little daughter of Brian and Candace. She's only less than a year old, and this has to do with the cyst on her lungs that they saw before birth, and that surgery is now scheduled for February 10th. So let's be in prayer for this little girl, that the surgery would be successful, and that the doctors would have wisdom to, do it successfully and do it well. All right, those 3 requests, and maybe just take some time tonight to pray about them. All right, let's have another singing video from the past, and then we'll look at the Bible together.
Is there a seat, leave it there. Never a burden ye cannot bear. Never a friend like Jesus. Come then at once, delay no longer. Heed his entreaty, kind and sweet. You need not fear a disappointment. You shall find peace at the mercy seat. All your anxiety, all your care, bring to the mercy seat. Leave it there. Never a burden he cannot bear. Never a friend like Jesus.
Well, for our Bible lesson this evening, I was thinking that we could kind of combine our Bible study for adults, for children, and I'm sure we'll find some application in here for teenagers as well. And we could do this by actually going back and revisiting one of the parables that we had during the coronavirus shutdown. And that is the parable of the rich fool, coming from Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 21. So I'm going to tell this story using the help of Joy and Jerry Giraffe and their pictures. And let's draw some application from this for all of us. Whether you're a parent, an older, older in life, younger in life, a child, listen to what the scripture says and what Jesus has to say, and let's make application for our own lives. Luke chapter 12, verse 13 says, "And one of the company came and said unto him," that's Jesus, "Master, speak to my brother that he divide the inheritance with me." I don't know what this guy's problem was, but evidently he was upset because his brother was taking more than what he thought was the fair share of the inheritance. And, okay, you can kind of follow the line of thinking. Here's this man, he wants to follow Jesus. Maybe his brother is following Jesus too. And the one brother sees the other brother and just thinks, this is not fair. He needs to share the inheritance with me. Why isn't he being fair? If he's really a Christian following the teachings of Jesus, then he's gonna give me more of the inheritance than what he's giving me now. And so here's this guy, he's come to Jesus, and Jesus, speak to my brother that he divide the inheritance with me. And what does Jesus answer? Jesus doesn't talk to that other brother who has the inheritance or has the bigger share of the inheritance. But he wants to address the man coming. And sometimes in life, maybe we might feel like we're in the case of the brother who feels wronged. We might feel like others are not being fair with us in monetary issues. We might feel that maybe we're being cheated a little bit. And what does Jesus have to say to this man complaining? He says unto him, "Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? Take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth." Wow. Okay. So Jesus says, beware of covetousness. Now, what is covetousness? Covetousness is wanting things that others have. You see it, and you're like, ooh, I want it. In fact, the 10th commandment tells us, thou shalt not covet. Don't covet your neighbor's house. Don't covet your neighbor's cow. Don't covet your neighbor's wife, his land, his building, nothing. Anything that your neighbor has, don't look over the fence and be like, I wish I had his car. I wish I had his barn. I wish I had his snow shovel. Actually, I wish I had his snow blower. Oh dear. Okay. Anyways, getting back to the point, Jesus says, take heed and beware of covetousness, because life does not consist of what we have or don't have. You know what? Whether I have a snowblower or I don't have a snowblower, that's not what life is all about. It's not. And in the moment of a giant snowstorm outside, I might get caught up in, oh, I wish I had a snowblower. I don't have a snowblower, by the way. And that's not the point of life. It's not. Following God and loving others is the point of life. Anyways, so Jesus speaks a parable to kind of illustrate his point. And here's his parable. The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do, because I have no room where to bestow my fruits? This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will bestow all my fruits and my goods. Wow, okay, so this rich man, he is getting richer. He has a bumper crop this year. Now, I don't know if he was a corn farmer, but if he was, okay, it's an imaginary story. Oh, he's got ears of corn bursting out his ears. Anyways, or maybe he's, I'm not even sure what these are. These can't be tomatoes. Maybe they can't be cherries, some sort of berries. Anyways, he is doing really well. His crops, he has more than he needs. He needs more. He has tons and tons of goods. And he's like, I don't have room for all of this stuff. You see, the man has everything he needs. He does. And he has more than what he needs. In fact, he has more than what he needs, more than what he can use, more than what he can store. This man's just got tons of stuff. And he's like, what am I going to do with it? Because I've got more stuff than I can spend. So he's like, I know what I'll do. I'll save it. I will pull down my barns and I will build bigger barns. Whoa. I'll build greater barns. I'll increase my capacity for stuff. I'll get a much huger barn and then I can have tons and tons of more stuff. And then I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. This guy's like, oh, I'll build a bigger barn, bigger barn, bigger barn. And then in these bigger barns, I'll store tons of stuff, and I will be able to live in luxury and ease for the rest of my life because of all the stuff that I have heaped up for myself. Boys and girls, do we ever do that? You might think, nah. But adults, do we ever do that? Do we ever store up stuff? We need a bigger garage. We need a bigger storage unit. We need a bigger house. We need a bigger, because we've got so much stuff that we need to store. More stuff. Whew. Maybe it's Legos. I always need more Legos. Isn't that funny? I have thousands of Legos, but I always need more Legos because more's must be better, right? More Legos. But it could be with all kinds of stuff that we have. It could be money in our retirement fund, or it could be, I don't know, gardening tools or some sort of hobby. But we get so fixated on stuff, don't we? And what is this guy? He's just focusing on stuff. And God says, oh, that's not a very good place to be. Why? That very night, God says to him, thou fool, this night your soul will be required of you. And then, who will these things be which thou hast provided? That man had an appointment with death. He didn't know it, but it was that night. That night. What was going to happen to all of his stuff after he died? He wasn't going to take any of it with him. So here we go, Joey and Jerry, and they've got a question. What's your question, Jerry? And then what happened? Ooh, that's a good question. What happened after the man died? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. But Joey has a question. Can I have his barn? Can you have his barn? Well, Joey, it's a make-believe story. It's just a parable being told. So there's not really any barn somewhere for you to have. Oh, but you're make-believe too, so you want to have his make-believe barn in this make-believe story? Well, we'll think about it, okay? But the man died. And, when people die, you have a funeral. In this parable, the man died. We could suppose, because we're imagining further in the story, that the rich man dies, there's an elaborate funeral. But what happens? His body gets buried in the earth, and he has no more control over all of his stuff. And what happens to his stuff? Well, of necessity, it has to go to others, whether it's his heirs or the government taking a portion or arbitrarily decided or stolen, whatever. The stuff doesn't do him any good any longer. He stands before God in judgment, and all that stuff, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So we could suppose he had built 3 more barns and full of stuff, and what happens to that stuff? Jesus said, "So is he that layeth up treasure for himself, and is not rich toward God." Not wise to lay up treasure for yourself, and not being laying up treasure before God. Foolish. So what's the lesson for us? Beware of covetousness. Beware of covetousness. When you feel that wanting come over you, ooh, I want that stuff, I want it. It would make my life so much better and more happier. It would be so much easier if I had his snowblower. Remember, God says, thou shalt not covet. Beware of covetousness. That's not what life is all about. In life, sometimes we think that that money is a choice between spending and saving. And some people think that spending a lot of, the money comes in, you spend it, that's a good thing. Some people think that the better thing is to save. Well, which is better? Which one does God want me to do? Spend or save the money that comes in? Well, actually, I think we should be focusing on a third option, and that is share. Share. Rather than looking at all my money and saying, well, should I spend it and get lots of stuff, or should I hoard it away inside the bank, buying gold bars or whatever it is that you do to save your money? Actually, there's a third option, and that is to share. To share. And in the Bible, we see in the New Testament, believers being very generous, taking their stuff and sharing it with others. Taking their money and giving it away to help other Christians. And those are the ones that are laying up treasure in heaven. Remember what Jesus said? He said, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. You concentrate on loving God and loving other people, not on your stuff, on hoarding wealth for yourself. Focus first on loving God and loving others. And the rest, God will make sure it falls into place. There's a place for retirement funds. There's a place for saving. My wife and I saved up for several years. And even before we were married, my wife was saving. And we used that savings to be able to put a down payment on our house. So there's a time and a place for saving. There's a time and a place for laying up for the coming day, like retirement. And there's also a place for spending money for enjoying good things. Okay, you shouldn't feel guilty if you have a snowblower. Enjoy it. But those are not our focus. Our focus is not on the stuff that we have in life. Our focus should be on loving God and loving other people. And that's our theme for this year. Instead of thinking all about how I can spend or save my money to benefit myself. I need to be thinking about how can I use my money to share, to love God, and to love other people. And I think our church does a good job at this. All through the coronavirus and also last year, the generosity of God's people here in giving is astonishing. It's really incredible how God has put generosity in our hearts. I think of when we were able to help the missionaries in Cameroon with a house for the national pastor, and like 3 times as much money as we needed was given, and that's really cool. That is really cool. So this message isn't because like there's people being greedy in the church, but this message is because Jesus said, "Take heed and beware of covetousness." Take heed and beware of covetousness. It's something that we need to remind ourselves about constantly, because there's a lot of temptation to want stuff and to get caught up in buying stuff and in hoarding stuff. So, take heed and beware of covetousness, because our lives do not consist in the abundance of the things that we have. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and I hope that you've been able to get some. I hope you can get some rest tonight. I'm sure if you had to shovel today or you have to shovel tomorrow, that snow is heavy. It's a lot of work, but hope you can take some time to pray for the request mentioned earlier, and be thinking about how you can love God and love others, even in the midst of this snowstorm. Maybe there's someone, another believer in our church, in our neighborhood, that in your neighborhood or nearby, give them a call. Find out how they're doing. See if they still have electricity, if they need food or water. I don't know. Volunteer to help them shovel out their driveway or something. But let's take this opportunity to remember the theme for this year for Dire Baptist Church, and that is to love God and to love others. God bless, and have a good night.